Welcome back to Daytime here on Rogers TV. Well, Derek was teasing me about it at the beginning of the show, how my over garlic eating last night is good for my health. Happy because she loves it when we do good things for our health, and she's teaching us today about diabetes and how to avoid it and how to keep ourselves healthy, and she's joining us today. See you as always in your beautiful green dress. You look fresh off vacation and rested. It's wonderful to have you, and this is a really important subject that we're talking about today because it affects so many people. First off, why don't you tell us, because as we understand it, there are different types of diabetes, right? So maybe you can explain what they are for us.
Yeah, there's basically three main types of diabetes. There's type 1, which is basically an autoimmune reaction in which the body reacts to the islet cells in the pancreas, and it reduces the natural production of insulin that our body makes.
Okay.
Those individuals definitely do need insulin, and so that's medically treated. Type 2 diabetes is more of a lifestyle management issue.
Okay.
And that's more where we can have an impact with foods and nutrition and do all that great stuff. The concern that I have, though, is in all children born after 2000, 1 in 3 children will develop diabetes.
Those numbers are incredible. Like, why the dramatic increase? Because I understand huge increase as well from between 1990 and 2000.
Exactly. Yes. Well, we're really doing a lot of research on inflammation and how inflammation has an impact on cardiovascular disease and now diabetes as well. And so we believe that our poor eating habits, our lifestyle choices, the heavier weight that we're gaining around the midriff, all of that is contributing to that. Mm-hmm. The last form of diabetes is gestational, so that's typically when a woman is pregnant and there's just an increased load on the body, and then at times diabetes can develop in that situation.
And it develops permanent?
No, that's transitional, but there's a higher risk for it to then become permanent or for it to occur later on in life.
So once the woman has the baby?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Well, let's talk about something that's really important. We obviously know, when people get diabetes, types of treatments that they can get, but what about prevention? How do we prevent getting diabetes?
That's great. Well, in a nutshell, type 2 diabetes is a lifestyle disease, and it develops over a long period of time, and people think that it occurs the next day. So one day you don't have diabetes and the next day you have it.
Right.
But the reality is there's early signs that we can pick up that typically indicate you might be heading down that pathway. And the most common thing is hypoglycemia. So what that means is having a reaction after you eat something sweet, your blood sugar goes up really high and then comes down really low about an hour and a half later. So that's usually an early sign that might be an issue down the road.
Okay.
In terms of key treatment options, do you want to talk about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Key treatment options is we can take a look at the fact that exercise can actually reduce the risk of diabetes by 47%.
47, that's a huge number.
47%. So we need to see people in their training heart range, which is 220 minus your age times 0.7 to 0.8 for half an hour 3 times a week. Okay. That's it.
Which is reasonable,
yeah.
really.
Yeah, yeah. Walk fast and just have a conversation with a friend. It's to the point where you're just kind of huffing and you're able to carry a conversation and you're sweating. So that's really the first thing. The second thing is weight management. If you have a greater weight distribution around the center, well, then we want to work on weight. And what we do is we focus on glycemic index, and we also focus on body type. So just for an example, one of my friends said, well, what body type am I? And I said, well, what do you crave? And she craves carbohydrates. It's like cookies, pasta, bread, etc. And she also tends to do things very, very quickly. Her weight tends to go down around the hips in the lower portion of the body.
And this wasn't even me, by the way, that said this. Okay, but I'd just like to say that she's basically talking about me.
So that body type would be a thyroid body type. So we would support the thyroid and the organs associated with that. So that's the weight management.
Yeah, you mentioned glycemic index. What does that mean exactly? How do you measure that?
Okay, so glycemic index is something that has been measured already, and there are table and charts available for every food.
Okay.
So essentially what you want to know is how quickly does the food break down into sugar in the body. So when you eat something, is it going to cause your blood sugar to rise really quickly, or is it going to be moderately, or is it going to be slowly? Ideally, you want to have smaller, frequent meals, and you want to watch for glycemic index foods that are too high. You want to avoid those. Anything white, anything processed is going to break down really quickly. You want to focus more on medium glycemic index foods and low glycemic index foods.
So what would be examples of those two?
Yeah, so basically I've got some examples right here. Blueberries are fantastic. They're in the medium to low glycemic range category. Carrots are naturally in the medium range, cherries as well. And again, in general, the higher the fiber, the lower the glycemic index.
Okay.
Beans, legumes, grains.
So you mentioned we want to increase our exercise.
Yep.
We want to find out what type we are, what body type we are, and we want to make sure that we're watching our glycemic index. If we're suspecting, like you said, if we notice a hypoglycemic result, what should we do? What can we be tested?
Yes.
Like, do we have to go through the traditional testing, or is there natural ways to do it?
There's both. So certainly you want to touch base with your medical doctor and get the standard testing, which is your fasting glycemic index, or pardon me, your fasting glucose levels. Okay. And if it's higher than 125, then that typically indicates high risk. Okay. The other thing that you want to do is talk to your physician if this has been something long-standing. There's something called hemoglobin A1C. Really important, because that determines your blood sugar over a longer period of time, over a 1 to 3 month period. Because on that particular day, you might be not so bad, but that measures something over a longer period of time. Something else that I encourage people to test for is something called C-reactive protein. That's an inflammatory marker. So even if you don't have diabetes, but the C-reactive protein is high, you're on your way. And so that's kind of 50% there. So you really need to work preventatively at that point.
So that should signal something that,
yes.
I better do something about
exactly.
this. What about literature? If people are looking for a great book or maybe a great website, is there someone you could recommend? Well,
we have our monthly newsletter. I've got a summary of all the treatment options, including natural treatments, and that's on our website, optihealth.ca. Okay. There's the Diabetic Association. That's an excellent group and organization, and their website is excellent. Those would be the two best resources.
Well, thank you so much. Great education,
Great to
as
have
usual.
You, Joelle. Wonderful to have you. Go to her website. She's going to have all the information on there. Be right back after this.
Fashions for this program are provided by the Bay-Rito. The Bay-Rito, featuring the exclusive Bioline. www.thebay.com.
This program sponsored in part by today's best country, Y101, Ottawa and the Valley's home for country music for over 30 years.